Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of Daily Kos The Brief, a weekly show about politics. I'm Marcos Molitzis. Normally, I would be here with Carrie Alabel, but it is the summer and vacation season is upon us. So today, joining me is Laura Clausen. She is your writer at Daily Kos, and we are going to be talking about what everybody else seems to be talking about, which is the Barbie movie. Laura, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So we, as a politics site, don't generally get deeply into summer blockbuster movies. It's really not our shtick. But we were sort of kind of dragged into it by this right wing hysterical freak out over the idea of the Barbie movie because they hadn't actually gone and seen it, right? So you had this massive global marketing campaign. It's just something. I mean, I was just reading that 500,000 stories were written about the Barbie movie in the month leading up to it, just globally. And so it was this absolutely spectacular and massive PR campaign. And if I don't know if you're kind of the right wing, I would just assume you kind of ignore it. And if it's not your cup of tea, okay, you're an incel bro conservative. You probably did not play with Barbies. It's okay because it wasn't marketed towards men, and that's cool. So there's a movie about Barbies. It's okay. It doesn't have to be everything. Doesn't have to be about you. But apparently, that's sort of been the theme. They're really outraged that somebody might be interested in something else. So anyway, we're like, okay, we got to check this thing out and see what's going on. And Laura does a lot of culture writing for us, and she's excellent at it. So it's like perfect. They're like, okay, Laura, you're gonna go out and see this movie. And so I think it was during you got to even see it during work hours. So like seems like it worked out really nicely. And you went to see the Barbie movie. And can you tell us what did you think?
I really enjoyed it. I think it was actually the first movie I've seen in the theater since the pandemic started. So it was kind of I got that immersive experience. And the marketing campaign that you mentioned, one of the big things they pushed is people going to the movies in pink and like dressing like Barbie. And there were people, I was there at Monday at 1 o'clock, and there were still people head to toe pink showing up with their friends. So you could see kind of the power just of, I think, the experience that they were marketing, that like mothers and daughters were going together all dressed up and so on. But the movie itself, it's a lot of fun. It's very surprising at times. There were moments where a joke landed, and you could hear in the laughter that people were surprised that they'd been ready for a joke at that moment, but they didn't see where it was going. It is kind of, it's a 2-hour ad for a doll, but it's also shockingly subversive on gender. It really kind of pulls apart a lot of things more than you would expect from this movie. And one of the things that I really noticed was, and that you notice if you read the right-wing commentary on it, is that some of the stuff about femininity and about Barbie herself is a little more expected, that we've all kind of heard that critique of gendered products. And the stuff about Ken is what really got under the skins of people like Ben Shapiro, that there's this marketing thing of, she's Barbie, he's just Ken, for the movie. So you saw like Malala Yousafzai posed in a Barbie box at one of the premieres with her husband, and she put it on social media with the caption, "She has a Nobel Prize, he's just Ken." And I think the idea that the man could be just Ken really, really simultaneously is an unusual and for a lot of us fun viewing experience, and also for people whose masculinity is extra fragile is very upsetting. But the
So
movie
do
is
you think?
also sorry.
Yes. So do you think that was sort of at the core of the right wing freak out about it? I mean, I don't. Before they saw the movie, did would they even know that? I don't know. I mean, Ken has always been a afterthought and an accessory to Barbie, even
Right.
during its most un PC era. And I remember one of the conservative right wing lunatics, I forget which one, woman, complained that Ken did not have enough testosterone. And the Ken doll is famously metro. I mean, you can go back to the 60s in the era of what high testosterone. And the Ken doll it was probably the same body as Barbie with a different head, right? Really thin arms, like clearly did not have a penis. Like this is not a paragon of masculinity. We're not talking the Arnold Schwarzenegger doll. So where was this idea that Ken was supposed to be butch coming from? And was that sort of the part of the big anger,
I
or
mean,
layering
you
the
know, one
stupid?
the person you're
Yeah, I was gonna say, or
right,
are
the
they just
person you're
layering
talking
the
about
tropes
there.
right now?
Sorry.
Sorry.
That was Ginger Gates, wife of Matt Gates, who called Ken Low T. Um, so she and Matt went to the premiere. They were very excited. They got all dressed up, and then I think they knew that they had to come out and say something negative about it. Um, so there's another part of the freak out is that there is a trans actress who plays one of the Barbies. So there's been a lot of kind of ugly misgendering stuff of her. So I think going in, I think before they understood fully what the portrayal of Ken was going to be, they just knew that they were supposed to be upset about it, and they were kind of throwing things against the wall, like, oh, there's a trans actress, it's woke, it's you know gender ideology, whatever. And then once they saw it, Ken was the thing that they got really upset about. And like you say, Ken has never been the center of anyone's story ever. Um, but they still can't deal with it. It's
What
yeah, it really shows exactly how defensive of masculinity I think they are.
One of the remarkable things about the movie is that the second weekend was also a blockbuster weekend. In fact, it was the seventh best second weekend for a movie in movie history. The only movies above it are a Star Wars movie, the Jurassic Park reboot, and a bunch of Marvel stuff. So we're talking the biggest blockbusters of biggest blockbusters. And here is Barbie, which is not an action flick in any sense of the word, like those are, is not as mass, theoretically not as mass market, but it has resonated clearly. And the second weekends are driven by word of mouth. Like you can throw all
Mhm.
the money, all the marketing to get people into those seats that first weekend. Second weekend is word of mouth, and you even see it compared to Oppenheimer, which did almost as well as Barbie the first weekend, and still had a great second weekend, but it was half the receipts as the Barbie movie, and so people are loving it, and yet you have conservatives screaming about how woke it is. So what does that say about wokeism and its appeal to broad, not just American but global audiences?
Yeah, conservatives went into this thinking like, oh, we're gonna make this the new Bud Light. We're gonna tank it. And they that second weekend really completely destroyed any claim they might have that this was an unpopular kind of presentation of wokeness, whatever that is. So yeah, it's kind of glorious to watch, actually.
It is the most successful movie ever directed by a woman, and I don't even
Mhm.
think it's close. Um, do we have a sense yet? And I haven't seen his data. I don't know. Maybe you have. Is it a movie driven primarily by women moviegoers, or does it have a much broader audience than that?
I haven't seen a breakdown yet. What I would say about it is that, famously, one of the reasons that the big budget movies tend to feature men is because the belief is that women will go see things with men and men won't go see things with women. So, what we can say about this movie is either more men are turning out than we would have expected for the Barbie movie. And I will say there were men in the theater when I went to see it. Or women are turning out like, kind of in historic ways. So it's kind of one way or another, it's sort of puncturing this longstanding view of not just Hollywood, but book publishers and so on too, that men just won't, that things featuring women always are necessarily limited in their audience because only women will see them. One way or another, this movie is disproving the limitations of those products.
Yeah, I want to go back to this whole idea that conservatives are, or just certain men, conservatives, are really upset that they've been minimized. That Ken is somehow mocking the patriarchy, and and it explicitly mocks the patriarchy without giving any spoilers. I think that's been made clear in a lot of the trailers and marketing materials.
Mhm.
And these are people that are totally okay with gazillion movies that objectify women. That I mean, every James Bond movie has women are eye candy, right? They're literally what can I presumably I haven't seen the Barbie movie yet, but I'm presumably it's the same sort of flip, and they're okay with that. Um, why do you get any sense from the sort of conservatism, that fragility? Where is that coming from? I mean, they have the patriarchy is in charge of literally everything. This is the first time a female-led movie, female-focused movie, has done this well, and they are losing their minds over this. Why are they so fragile about something that they literally at the moment control?
I mean, so one of the things that's really interesting is, sort of they keep coming, it's man hating. This movie is man hating. It's like, well, okay, Ken is the butt of some jokes in the way that women, as you point out, have often been. Ken is treated as a woman, and oh my gosh, that's man hating. And so I think it's really kind of the reaction is showing the degree to which men expect that they will always be treated well, and that women, whatever, however they're treated. Um, you've got these quotes like, Ben Shapiro said, either you're a third wave feminist who hates men, truly hates men, or you're brainwashed. That's the message of the movie. And yeah, I mean, I think it's like, what else do they have, right? If you're Ben Shapiro, what do you have? You're a white dude. And that's what you're going with. And anything that minimizes that is undercutting you personally, very personally.
Oh, they take it very personally. To me, it's almost like you actually don't have any. You have it so good, you don't have anything real to complain about. You have people like Tucker Carlson complaining about cartoon M&M candies not dressing sexy enough for him. I mean, it's just the stuff that they're crying about. To me, it's like, okay, you literally have nothing to complain about. Joe Biden hasn't done anything real to make your life worse, clearly, because you're complaining about stupid things like Bud Light. And so,
or a black Little Mermaid,
or a black Little Mermaid, right? And the if I mean, you look at liberal complaints, right? It's real things, our planet's burning up, and women and don't make as much as men in the workplace, and ethnic and racial minorities and other disadvantaged communities have real challenges, and whether it's a workplace or whether it's accessing healthcare or whether down the list, right? We can sit there and enumerate to the point where it's almost tedious, to the point where it's like, oh my god, like it's so bleak. There's so many things, and they're sitting there complaining about M&M candies and who was cast as the Little Mermaid, and whether Ken doll was treated, or Ken was man hating or not. Who cares if it was man hating? Let's stipulate. Okay, maybe you're right. Maybe everybody's laughing at Ken because they hate men. So what? What right? Like, so what? Like, why do they care? Why does it matter when they have every other movie, every I mean, those movies aren't doing well. Maybe that's part of the problem, right? Like, nobody wants to see Harrison Ford be an action star at nearly 80 years old. Is that what's going on? Do they feel like there's a changing of the guard and they're being put out the pasture?
Yeah, and I think they just feel that like anything that what they have is their status, and anything that undercuts that, kind of, if black people, that they really believe that if black people do well, if one or two black people do well, that white people are losing out. Everything is a zero-sum game with them, and kind of, if someone else is doing well, that means I'm losing, and that's unacceptable.
Yeah, I'm losing. That's the part, right? It's not, the rising tide lifts all boats. They talk about trickle down economics, with this idea that everybody benefits from these, but they don't actually believe that. They don't believe that culturally. They don't believe that economically, and that way they become a lot more insular and inward looking. So Walter, who's our producer, came up with the gender breakdown of the audience to the movie, and it turns out that Barbie audience is 66% female, so 2/3 female, which is pretty, that's a lot. And then 75% under the age of 29. That's the part that actually blows me away. I'm surprised that a movie can be this successful, make this much money, being that young. And I got to say, my daughter loved it. She came back raving about how hilarious the patriarchy jokes were. That was her favorite part about the movie, and she's 16, so that's what resonated. But this is sending a huge signal to Hollywood that you've been missing an entire audience here,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, and I think that the marketing campaign that kind of encouraged women to go together in friend groups, and that was about sort of women carving out time together, whether it's mothers and daughters or friends, that's really powerful. A really powerful part of what we're seeing here, especially coming out of the pandemic, is like women get to have some fun and some time for themselves. And that's kind of a theme of the movie. In the movie, America Ferrera plays the mother of a tween, and she's really kind of powerfully channeling, like, she has a kind of dull job, and her husband's kind of a loser, and
This is a Barbie husband. This is all in Barbie land, or
no, this is she's a real
oh, in
world
real world.
character.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Barbie crosses into the real world and she meets America Ferrera, and she's got a tween daughter who is too cool for her parents, and so she's kind of, I think, channeling a fairly big part of the audience. So that's another reason I think it's interesting that it's such a young audience, is that it kind of spoke to me as the parent of a kid and so on, as like, this is partly about what it is to be a mom these days, but yet
So
it's clearly resonating.
Walter's pointing out that most movies that do well in the theaters are actually driven by young people. What is really actually surprising is how it has resonated with people like you, apparently, and in the theaters itself. So that's all pretty cool. So here we have this incredible blockbuster. It's going to hit the 1 billion mark if it hasn't already within the next this weekend in global receipts, and it is. I mean, it's clear at this point that it's reaching sort of cultural phenomenon status, and you have conservatives screaming about it being woke. Are they still on this case, or have they like surrendered and retreat and pretending they never talked about the movie to begin with?
So they have. I looked at Fox News. I did a search for recent Fox News headlines about Barbie, and they have moved off of the like Barbie's going to tank because it's so woke stuff, but they have to talk about it because it's a really big story, and they can't be positive about it because they already staked out their ground that it sucks. So some of what they're doing is they're trying to come up with like, well, liberals hate it too. So there's a headline: Black university lecturer refuses to subject daughter to Barbie over white is always right ideology.
Holy crap! Where did they dig that one up? Talk about
I
scraping
think,
one person over there that you never heard of.
right.
Didn't
I
like
think
it.
it's a piece at Salon, and the guy is also a university lecturer. So they went with university lecturer rather than like writer at Salon. Um, and they have Barbie's dream house must be redesigned to survive climate change, CBS reports. That's based on an environmental group did an Instagram post, basically taking the Barbie phenomenon to talk about like heat pumps and smart thermostats. And that is, that's getting coverage. So yeah,
So
they've
it's
kind
probably
of
tongue in
gone for
cheek. They're probably tongue in cheek. They're probably writing the Barbie phenomenon to get a little bit of social media
absolutely
juice and ride the
right,
wave. And then they're you have Fox News acting like it's serious
right.
uh, environmental
Yep.
critiques of the Barbie. Oh, that's freaking brilliant. Is it too much glass? Is it? Is it?
And
Oh,
yeah, it's like it. When I read the article, it's not even like, yeah, they didn't even kind of go for it. They just were like, here's what houses in general need to do better
that's
in
funny.
climate change. Like,
That's
that's
funny.
it.
And so yeah, I mean, it seems very self defeating. They're really failing on the woke branding. They've invested. I don't know. When did they start talking about woke? I mean, it's at least the last 3-4 years where it really became the Fox News focus, where everything was woke. Yeah, Ron DeSantis has built an entire presidential campaign around saying woke like literally every sentence, woke with this, woke that, woke, woke, woke. He's crashing and burning. It's not getting any traction. The polling on wokeism is actually really bleak for Republicans. I mean, some like 68% of Americans have a positive attitude towards the word woke, including like almost over a third of Republicans. I was watching a poll recently, and because people don't understand what woke is, and one of the sort of phenomenons of right-wing media and the conservative movement these days is that they are so trapped in their bubble that they don't realize that they haven't defined their terms to other people, right? So their brain says woke is like the most horrible thing, but you ask an average person on the street what woke is, and it's being compassionate and open-minded and caring about other people. And so and who knows, maybe conservatives would give that same definition and they're just outraged at the idea of being compassionate, open-minded, and caring towards other people. But you were talking in our staff Slack about a family member who really, you talked to about the word woke, and I don't know if you could talk a little bit about that, because it sort of speaks to how maybe not us, activist liberals and not right-wing conservatives trapped in their ecosystem. Like, how do normal people, what pops in their brain when somebody says woke?
Yeah, so my family member is a pretty moderate person. Like these days, my sense is that she votes mostly for Democrats, but that she would be really happy to vote for Republicans if she found ones that she could consider sane. Um, you know, that if she found like moderate Republicans for real, she would be thrilled to vote for them. But
I
she
mean,
was
that
saying,
sounds like Virginia college-educated suburban white women who voted for Glenn Youngkin in the governor's
mhm,
race last year. They had voted for Joe Biden, and then they flipped in the governor's race because Youngkin pretended to be a moderate. So they're like, oh yeah, like great, now I can still vote Republican. I'm still, because people, when I think a lot of people have a
right.
lot vested in the idea that they're open-minded and that that
Mhm.
they weigh the candidates. So that sounds like this is one of these people.
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty sure that my family member I'm talking about, I'm quite sure she voted for Charlie Baker, who was the recent Republican governor in Massachusetts. He basically stepped down because he knew he couldn't win a Republican primary, being the person he was. But I'm fairly sure she was a supporter of his. Um, but yeah, so exactly that person. And she was saying, she was like, "What? Can you explain to me what they mean by woke?"
And by
Because every
they,
time Republicans, that sort
okay,
of the people who are using it as an attack. She was
yeah.
like, because I keep sort of hearing that things I believe are woke, and I'm just like, well, thank you, because that seems like a compliment, right? So this is kind of who DeSantis. Every time that DeSantis like has his wife out campaigning as like, oh, I'm a parent of young kids, and we moms are fighting for our kids. Like this is the person that they're trying to reach with that. And then every time he kind of reflexively goes for the wokeness attack, I think he loses people like that. Um,
I
so
I
yeah,
was
I think I mean, we see what's happening with DeSantis' campaign, right? Like, I think these things are connected.
Yeah, I saw on a right wing forum where even a DeSantis supporter is like, I like DeSantis, but if he says woke one more time, I'm gonna rip my hair out. Like it's become almost a crutch, and again, it's not defined in a way that people can understand. Oh yeah, this is a pejorative. Like I'm supposed to think this is bad, that something is woke, and you see it a lot. Like now they're going after the diversity, equity, and inclusion, like DEI directors at
Mhm.
corporations, but they won't explain. They'll say DEI. Oh, there's another DEI, and people are like, nobody knows what DEI stands for and
Yeah.
why they should care about it. And it's part of being in that bubble. So they expend a lot of energy saying the Barbie movie is woke, and then people go see the Barbie movie, and it's like, okay, this is a lot of fun. That's what woke is. I mean, they don't. There's not even a strategy behind how to create that negative connotation. And Barbie movie was always bound to fail. It's just like even in the promotional materials, it was bright and fun and exciting, and even had it been a flop, even had it been like, okay, this is just stupid, because it's what I would imagine a Barbie movie to be like before there was an
Right.
actual Barbie movie,
Yeah.
just
100%.
cheesy and stuff, and just lame and like cringy. Like if they did a Bratz movie, like live action, that's how I would imagine it to be. Like, oh, this is kind of cringe. Um, it's still not the sort of thing that ever would create. I don't. It didn't seem like it would create the negative connotations, which is usually dark and depressing and there is something to going after like humorless liberals. Like yeah, like
Right.
the environmentalists didn't like it because there was no mention of climate change. I mean, that's not. I mean, they had to try to make up something that wasn't even that, right?
Mhm.
But
Right.
that would have a little bit more of that energy. But it seems so weird to me that they decided to climb on that hill and fight that battle. And I don't see how it doesn't incredibly blow up. And it's telling that they're moving on. They're and I would be surprised if some of these incel right wingers what's his face who did his movie review 45 minutes on why Barbie movie was the worst movie
Ben
he had ever
Shapiro.
seen. Ben Shapiro.
Mhm.
I wouldn't be surprised if all of them are moving on and just call this a loss. But this is a movie that directly speaks to one of the core, most important swing demographics in this country, right? College educated, suburban, white women, but women of all color, because it's also a turnout question. And I would not be shocked if that 33% of men who have went and watched the movie, they're also college educated, predominantly urban and suburban. It is a battleground demographic, and they just made fighting the patriarchy kind of cool. I didn't see the movie, but it
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
given my
Well,
daughter's reaction, it seemed kind of cool to be fighting the patriarchy. She was all
right.
for it.
Yeah, well, and you think about, even if it's only a third of the people going to see this movie are men, the movie's had such a big audience. That's still a lot of men. It's still a movie that's doing reasonably well among just men, just based on its overall box office.
So we're
Um,
almost we're almost out of time. So
mhm.
I'm curious again. I didn't see this movie. Is this the kind of movie that could shift political perspective with people who might not be base progressives? Is it as subversive as conservatives thought it was or think it is?
I mean, it's still a commercial product, right? Mattel was still behind this movie. But, I think one of the things that conservatives probably in their kind of bigoted way are right to be threatened by is that there was a trans actress playing a Barbie and it wasn't a trans Barbie. It was just like, this is the actress playing this Barbie. Um, and yeah, I think it sort of pushes women and presumably, well, actually, I think women across generations to kind of look at the way that masculinity operates in their lives and the ways that they're expected to be deferential to masculinity and to at least question it. I think it also just makes conservatives look pathetic, and that if it delegitimizes people like, all of the Fox News talking heads who came on to rant about it and Ben Shapiro and so on, that's, if it makes them look pathetic, that's a plus, because hopefully it means that their next attack strategy will just, kind of have that loser stench a little bit.
I think
Um,
it's definitely got a looser stench right now. I think they picked the wrong battle.
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's all the time we have. Laura, thank you. This is Laura Clausen. She's a senior writer at Daily Kos. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to talk about. That was fun. Talk about the Barbie movie. It's not every day that we're going to sit there and talk about Barbie on Daily Kos The Brief. So thank you so much for joining. It's such a pleasure. Thanks to everybody who makes the show possible. Thanks to Walter, our producer. Thanks to Carrie, who's here in spirit, if not in person. Thanks to Paul, who helps behind the scenes. And thanks to everybody who is a member of the Daily Kos community, whether it's at Daily Kos, whether it's the email or email action list, whether it's watching the brief, listening to the podcast. So thank you all so much for being part of this movement. We're having fun. Republicans are beating each other up. It's a good time. We're gonna have fun over the next couple of months. But let's not lose sight that we are fighting for the soul of our country, for our very democracy. It's an existential battle. Donald Trump isn't going away. Neither are the people who follow his destructive authoritarian policies. So it's great to have you all in this fight. Let's have fun when it's time to have fun, and then let's get to work when it's time to get to work. Thank you so very much. Catch you all next week.